Actor Macaulay Culkin arrived and left the courthouse here in Santa Maria with very little fanfare. His testimony didn't last too long. In a very clear and strong voice, he told the jury Michael Jackson never touched him inappropriately. He also said, quote, "I never saw him act improper with anybody." Culkin at one time had a very close relationship with the pop star. The two traveled together. They spent a lot of time together at Jackson's ranch. And today, many observers saying Culkin's testimony was powerful for the defense.
It's hard to imagine there being a better witness for Michael Jackson than Macaulay Culkin. I mean, he not only answered certain questions about whether or not he was by Michael Jackson, and he affirmatively said no, but he also gave us the clearest and I think the most succinct window into the mind of Michael Jackson. And today, that just hasn't happened.
Culkin did face a somewhat aggressive cross-examination by prosecutor Ron Zonin. Culkin did say yes, he shared a bed with Michael Jackson, but he described it as more like falling asleep on Jackson's bed. The prosecution then attempting to try and suggest that perhaps Jackson molested Culkin while he was sleeping. Prosecutor Zonin saying, "So as far as you know, you were never molested while you were awake." Culkin's response, "As far as I know, I was never molested by Michael Jackson." And right now, the defense is playing portions of a video that was taken from Michael Jackson's personal cameraman during the filming of the Martin Bashir documentary, Living with Michael Jackson. Natalie, that is, of course, the documentary that sparked the investigation that led to this criminal trial.
Santa Maria Courthouse, 2005. Michael Jackson's freedom came down to what a handful of people were willing to say out loud, and one of them was Macaulay Culkin, the world's most famous former child star, walking in to testify for a man half the planet had already convicted in their heads. No hesitation, no hedging, just a flat, repeated no. But to understand how we got to that courtroom moment, we have to go back to where this friendship actually started.
We have to cover it, so let's ask about it. What's the relationship that you had with Michael Jackson?
Had or have? I mean, it's
had both.
You know, whatever.
Let's go with had to
listen,
have.
No, he's a good friend of mine, and he still is. I mean, everything that's going on, I mean, it's unfortunate. It's an unfortunate situation for everyone involved, and you know,
How did you first get to meet him?
I first met him. He kind of called me randomly, like out of the blue. He was just kind of like, "Hi, it's Michael," and I was like, "Hey." And the thing
This
is,
was after Home Alone.
This is after Home Alone. I actually had met him before I was doing Nutcracker at Lincoln Center. I was playing Fritz, and he came backstage one day, and I actually met him very briefly, and he kind of recognized me because it was after I'd done Uncle Buck, and so he kind of mentioned something, and then he calls me up kind of out of the blue. It's kind of just this weird random thing, and he was like, "Why don't you come over to my house?"
A superstar cold calling a child actor out of nowhere. On paper, it sounds alarming, but according to the people who lived it, it wasn't calculated. It was a lonely, socially stunted man reaching out to the one kid who treated him like a normal person instead of a legend. That's the defense, at least. And whether you buy it or not, it's the story that stayed consistent for over 20 years.
What happened at the house? That's what all these things that people are concerned
that's what's so weird, you know.
What did happen?
Nothing happened, you know.
Nothing.
I mean, nothing really. I mean, we played video games, you know. We played it as an amusement park. Well, the thing is with that whole thing is that, you know, they go, "Oh, you slept in the same bedroom as him." It's like, I don't think you understand. Michael Jackson's bedroom is 2 stories. And it has like 3 bathrooms and this and that. So when I slept in his bedroom, yeah, but you have to understand the whole scenario. And the thing is with Michael is that he's not very good at explaining himself, and he never really has been, because he's not a very social person. I mean, you're talking about someone who's been sheltered and sheltering himself also for the last like 30 years, or you know. And so the thing is, I didn't react to him the way most people did. Most people are like, Michael Jackson, and you know, I mean, he was a god to people, and to me, he was, you know, I knew he was a pop singer, but beyond that, you know, I wasn't one of the fans. I think that's one of the reasons why we connected, was the fact that, you know, believe me, I call him a jerk all the time. I call him a fathead and this and that, you know, and he gets it.
Your brother knew him too?
Yeah, no, we all did. I mean, he was, you know, a family friend.
One day he wasn't there, and Jermaine Jackson took me to Neverland for the first time, and Michael wasn't there. And of course, I was looking for him everywhere. Where's Michael? He said, "Michael might be here." He said, "No, Michael's not here." He said, "Where's Michael?" Then I was in his office doing, you know, just touring, walking around. I think it was one of his offices, and I spilled some cocoa on his couch. And I just thought it was the worst thing in the world. Wasn't nobody, and I was like, "What did I do? How could I do this? I'll never be invited back again." I said, "I can't believe this." And I told Jermaine, I said, "Jermaine, guess what I did? I spilled some cocoa on Michael's couch." He said, "Oh man, don't worry about that. I don't care about that. Come on, let's go on the Ferris wheel." He was like, I was making a big deal about, you know, spilling something, because that's how I think. I mean, Neverland is so magical and precious. But that was my very first time there. And Michael, I didn't meet him, but I met Michael later on, and then of course I went to Neverland.
Notice a pattern here? Nobody's describing a predator's lair. They're describing a theme park with a Ferris wheel, where a kid's biggest fear was spilling cocoa on the couch. Neverland, according to nearly everyone who actually visited, wasn't a trap. It was Michael's attempt to build the childhood he says he never got to have himself.
A huge Michael Jackson fan, and you met him, didn't you, when you were 14?
Yeah, I spent a lot of time with him over a 10-year period, and I first met him at 14.
And so what was he like?
Well, he was extremely humble, very sweet, very funny, very, very sincere, and just had a very, very gentle, kind energy about him. I spent a lot of time at Neverland. He invited me to Neverland.
How old were you when you went to Netherlands?
19.
19.
And yeah, it you know, when you hear these ridiculous claims that Neverland was supposed to be some kind of place to lure people in, it's just outrageous. I've seen it for myself. And you know, the second time I went, you know, I actually I really broke down and cried because I saw all the beautiful things he was doing for, you know, underprivileged people, children, folks of all ages. And it just really broke my heart that, you know, we live in a world where someone who has nothing but kindness and goodwill to offer can be so deliberately misinterpreted.
Bumper cars. A chimpanzee named Bubbles. 20 people crammed onto rides on a random weekend. It sounds less like a predator's playground and more like a chaotic, slightly unhinged birthday party that never ended. But laughter and Ferris wheels are exactly what made the next chapter so hard for the public to process. Because in 2005, all of this innocence would be put on trial.
We're off to the field. Super Soakers are really high tech. They got some really great ones now. That's Mac's older brother, Shane. Okay, we're preparing the water balloon fight. What's the name of our group? In appreciation for working on the Black or White short film, we'd like to say thank you and we love you and we think you've done a wonderful job.
John,
because
what, Mac?
John, Mac. Me and Mac we're in Bermuda and we're looking for some interesting treasure. Mac and I would go on vacation together, and Mac is very smart and he's very ingenious in causing trouble. But it's his idea.
Yeah, so I'm not gonna try this one.
And we were in Bermuda together, and we were signing water balloons. He had me signing water balloons, and he was throwing these balloons at the fans on the balcony. They loved it. They wanted more. They were asking for more. But Mac's throwing it. So I was signing these balloons, and he kept throwing them.
This balloon is autographed!
I'm signing them, he's throwing them, and that's what we did. Mac is the most reckless driver. Oh my God. You almost killed him. It's his brother Kieran on the back. Did you see that lead? You put his man over. They're good kids though.
I didn't know you had that. Like,
This is what he did. Look, he had the camera and he went.
Home videos, vacations, water balloon fights in Bermuda. This is the Michael Jackson his friends say the world never got to see. But behind the scenes, a very different narrative was building. One that had nothing to do with Ferris wheels and everything to do with courtrooms. Because while some were signing autographs on water balloons, others were about to accuse Michael of something unthinkable.
I would imagine you believe that children are being abused by pedophiles in Hollywood.
Absolutely.
So why are you sitting down talking to me? Why aren't you sitting down with the police right now?
I told the police. In fact, if anybody wants to go back to 1993 when I was interviewed by the Santa Barbara Police Department, I sat there and I gave them the names. They're on record. They have all of this information, but they were scanning Michael Jackson. All they cared about was trying to find something on Michael Jackson.
Who you said, by the way, did not
who Michael was innocent. And that was what the interview was about with the police in 1993. I told them he is not that guy. And they said, well, maybe you just don't understand your friend. And I said, no, I know the difference between pedophiles and somebody who's not a pedophile because I've been molested. Here's the names. Go investigate. And let me push this forward. There are thousands of people in Hollywood who have this same information. Why is it all on me? Why is it if I don't release the names in the next 2 months, 6 months, or a year, I'm the bad guy. I'm the victim here. I'm the one who's been abused. accused. I'm the one who's trying to come forward and do something about it.
But
Hold on, please, I'm sorry. There are thousands of people out there, Matt, who have this information. Any one of those child actors that went to the teenage soda pop clubs with me when I was a kid know who those people are and the people who ran it. Anybody can go back through history and look at the teen magazines and say, what was the name of that venue they were all promoting and who ran that venue and who endorsed.
Now here's where it gets complicated. This particular voice isn't talking about Michael specifically. He's talking about a much bigger, darker web inside Hollywood. One he says police investigated back in 1993 while they were laser focused on Michael instead. It's a claim that's impossible to verify on our end, but it raises an uncomfortable question the documentary keeps circling back to. Was Michael Jackson the target because he was guilty, or because he was simply the most famous name attached to an era Hollywood still hasn't fully reckoned with?
Well, Macaulay Culkin took the stand for the defense.
He was our second witness.
Right.
Fabulous witness for Michael Jackson.
Right. I remember they did he was in the black and white video at one point. I guess the two of them had a close relationship.
They were very dear friends. I met with Macaulay the night before I called him as a witness. I met with he and his New York lawyer. He had an entertainment lawyer with him. And the lawyer was nervous as can be. And about what this might do to his career and what it might do to him. And he was very concerned about his client, which I understand completely. Macaulay, on the other hand, was so confident, so convinced he was doing the right thing, and so adamant that he was never molested, that he was never put in a compromising position by Michael Jackson, that Michael Jackson was his close friend, that they both came up as child stars and they knew the rigors and the pressures of being a child star. And he said, "This is my friend. I'm testifying for him. This stuff never happened." Remember, the prosecution called witnesses to say they saw Macaulay being molested at Neverland by Michael. Macaulay gets on the stand and says he never molested me at any time. We're dear friends. We share a lot. We have a lot in common. He would never do a thing like this. And by the way, let me say this also. I meet with Macaulay and his lawyer that evening. The next morning I get up. I'm getting dressed for court. I turn on the television, and here's one of the major networks, and their reporter is saying, "We've learned that Macaulay Culkin is not going to show up to court today, that his agents, his producers, his directors, his lawyers are all telling him he has nothing to gain, and he has refused to testify." And here I was with him the night before, knowing full well I'm calling him to the stand that day. That just tells you what happens when you look at the media and when you're dealing with reality as opposed to the media.
A lawyer's word against a live TV broadcast, hours before Culkin actually walked into that courtroom. It's a small detail, but it says everything about how this trial was covered. Headlines racing ahead of facts. Narratives built before a single witness even took the stand. Culkin risked his career to testify. The media almost buried that he showed up at all.
Macaulay Culkin wrapped up his testimony in Michael Jackson's child molestation trial, and he told jurors he had never been molested by the superstar.
What reaction has happened to you from all of this?
What do you mean?
I mean, people. Do people inquire of you a lot about it?
Sometimes, yeah. I mean, people always have like their opinions, and they always, it's funny. I mean, people always talk to me about him because, I'm one of these people who will tell you anything about my life, really, if you get me going, And so, yeah, I mean, I freely and openly talk about him and stuff like that, but overall, he's just a good friend of mine.
But you wish him well.
Yes, of course I do.
What got you?
2 decades later, the questions still follow every person who ever walked through Neverland's gates. Some talk freely, some stay guarded, but almost all of them land in the same place. Loyalty to a friend who, in their eyes, never stopped being a misunderstood kid himself. Whether that's the full truth or only half of it, is still the argument that won't go away.